Now I'm going to talk to you about one aspect of the research skill development framework that is what we call the facets of research. I use the word facet like you do a diamond that sparkles and shines. So there's one precious jewel, one conceptual jewel around researching. There's 6 different sides to it. So they're artificial separations, but they're often helpful in an educational context to break things down to their parts so that we can build them up into a beautiful whole. So the 6 facets of research are not at all surprising. They're trying to capture what people do when they do it well. So this is not really a new articulation. It's just trying to consolidate things and arrange them in ways that really make sense of the educational enterprise about researching. So the first facet is how we begin. It's all about purpose. What am I trying to do? And the way we phrased it is embark and clarify. Embark captures the sense of a voyage. It's a journey. And typically we don't just embark and go from A to B, but if we're on a real voyage of discovery, of learning, then we have to often get off, look around and get back on again. And that's what we do in researching. When we're trying to work out what it is we're doing, we often don't just do that first then we're perfectly clear. We have to come back to that point time and time again, clarify and re-clarify our purpose. So that's absolutely vital. But if we have a sense of what we're trying to do, then when we're looking for information, the second facet is finding information and generating data. So yes, it values the literature, it values other people's work, and it also values the development of data, the generation of data in discipline-appropriate ways. Different methodologies are employed, completely different methodologies are employed by disciplines, from especially qualitative research, which is, say, interview-based. We'll use one raft of methodologies, whereas quantitative research, where they're generating data, say, in a chemistry laboratory, we use very different approaches. But they're all around this generation of data and this use of knowledge that others have been developing through research. The third facet is to evaluate. That is, to evaluate others' information. We don't believe anything by default. We don't just believe an article because it's peer-reviewed, but look for factors to be discerning within that, looking for indicators of credibility. And also with our own data. So we're not biased towards our own data, but we're also equally discerning about that. And also that facet has this sense of reflecting on the whole process. And that obviously is not something that should be just at the end, but it should be something that's going on throughout. How could I do this better? Could I improve that? Should I be including different strategies in my search of information? A whole load of things that we need to be reflecting on the process for the sake of improvement, an ongoing improvement, not just end-on improvement. The fourth facet is that we organise information in discipline-appropriate ways. From, do I use graphs or tables, or is it fully prose, or what's the arrangement of those things? But how do I arrange my resources? How do I arrange the time frame? How do I manage the time frames and people? There's so many different aspects of organise and manage. But if we don't organise and manage well, then we can't really be effectively set up for the fifth facet, analyse and synthesise. To analyse is both the fine detail, pecking around in the details, and then the big picture of what's the trend, what's the statistical trend, or what's the theme across all these stories or this literature. So there's a very big picture of analysis. So we're trying to see what's going on. And so that the synthesis that it leads to is putting all the parts together so make the whole, and so that our students would say, oh, I see what's going on. And then, for the sixth facet, they've got something to communicate, whether that's orally, in a performance, in visual information, often in writing in universities and multimedia. They have something to communicate, but that sounds as if communicate is an end-on product. Actually, it's a facet that's throughout the whole process. So often the first thing students do is talk to each other, or they talk to us as educators, or they talk to library staff. And they're trying to clarify what's going on here. So communicate is a process that's throughout, just like each of those facets are woven throughout. So there's artificial separations. But when we can communicate and apply so that we know what we're doing and why we're doing it and extending it to other areas, that gives us a full, well-rounded 6 facets of research that work together almost more like a pearl that's perfect in its beauty in our students' conceptualization of the whole rich researching process.